Okay, guys, we are going to in 10 minutes create this awesome logo I created for a clothing brand, right? So I just want to get right into it and show you how it works. For those of us following this tutorial, you must be conversant with Coreldraw as a software, because this is the software we're going to be using. For me, I'm using Coreldraw 2021, all right? And I have a document open right now, and this is the logo we are going to create today in 10 minutes or less, right? So first things first. When I created this logo, I just want to say a very short story. So when I created this logo, I created it with the intention of just freestyling till I get something really nice. I was trying to go for a modern, urban, a logo for an urban clothing store or clothing line, and I came up with the disrupt and disturb co. As disrupt and disturb company. So we are going to recreate this logo. All right, so we'll go through all the processes I took to get to this point. So the first thing we want to do is create. Right now you can see I have 2 pages here, so I'm going to create a third one. The first one is for all the rough things I did, for all the several things I did before I arrived here. You can see this, the bull, right? And yeah, the same thing here. It's actually a bull. So we have page 2 where the actual logo is kind of like located right here. So we're going to create a new page where we're going to duplicate or replicate this same design, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to click on this plus sign here, and it's going to create a fresh page. That's page 3 for us. So in our page 3, we are going to commence with creating the design. All right, so let's begin. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add your text. Before I got to this concept, before I achieved this concept, what I did was I actually played with the word disrupt and disturb. I did a couple of things, but I kind of like arrived here. So for us to get here, we have to create a text first. So select your text tool from here, or press your F8, function 8, and then write in caps DIS, or rather DX, because I'm replacing the I's with X's. So DXT, DXRUPT, that's disrupt. X for and. You can write this in small, so you can remove the caps and put it back and write disturb, DXTURB, and co in small letters as company, right? So disrupt and disturb co, right? It's actually quite difficult to pronounce. So this company or this brand aims to come and disrupt the market, basically become the go-to guys for anything urban fashion. So I was thinking of something that has that disruptive element to it, and a couple of things came to mind. The first thing that came to mind was a thunderbolt, right? You know, where lightning strikes or thunder strikes, usually leaves this mark. So I was thinking of a thunderbolt. I played with that, but I didn't really get what was satisfactory for me. So I kept playing and I kept thinking up concept, and then I got a different concept, which was like the bull, right? So you can see here, it's DXTRUPT, and this here signifies 2 horns, like a bull. And you know what a bull is? It's an animal that charges at things, right? And it can cause a lot of damage, and I mean, not in a negative way, obviously, for the logo, but it can do a lot of damage. You know, it can change things, the way things are. You understand? So I went for that. I went for something that can actually upset the market and become the mainstream. That is why I went for the bull. So I got the idea just looking at the X, and I was thinking, okay, we could carve this out into a bull's horn and all that. So to start this, we have to change the font first. So I've written the 2 things I want to write. So I'm going to break this text apart because they have different fonts. To do that, I'll just press my Ctrl K, and then on this one, I'm going to change it to just highlight here, but the font is already here visible. So you just highlight your Arial and type Bebas, B-E-B. If you have Bebas, you can go for Bebas font. That is what I used. So I wrote Bebas, and you can see it has a lot of spaces, kerning, right? So I had to close it up a little bit. I didn't dwell so much on the kerning, like trying to perfect it, because it was a logo I created in a rush. So you just grab your shape tool or press your F10, and then you grab one of these controllers below the text and you shrink it a little bit till everything kind of closes up on each other, so it feels more solid and it makes more sense. And so for the disturb code, we are going to make the disturb kind of bold, because they are all part of the name. So make this, just highlight only the disturb and press Ctrl B, and then we can click on our pick tool again to switch back to normal. Then grab this and then hold it by one of the angles or handles and reduce the size of it and place it here, and then you could center it. You hold shift and click. You want to center it, you select this one, click on it, hold shift and click on disrupt and press C, and it's going to center it on this. So we select disturb. We also close it up a little bit. The thing is, the smaller the text, the bigger the spaces, so you don't actually need to do that, but just to make everything sit really right, you can just close it up a little bit and it's done. So we center it again. We hold shift to select disrupt and we'll press C, and it stays on the horizontal center of it. If you want to center it vertically, you press E rather than C. Right, so we have our text complete. So right now what we have to do next is to create the bull's horn out of the text. So for us to do that, we have to since the text are together, we have to break it apart, so we'll focus more on the X. All right, so to break this text apart into individual characters or letters, we have to press Ctrl K. In fact, that is the command you use if you want to break anything apart in Coreldraw. You press Ctrl K. So breaking it apart now, the D stays alone, the X stays alone, and all the other text stays alone. We are going to create a bull's horn out of this X, and before we do that, I would want us to destroy this X so it no longer remains as a text but rather an object, so that we can actually see the nodes and all the other angles that we want to create, so we can see alignments. So to do that, select the text and press Ctrl Q to destroy the text. Once you press Ctrl Q, it becomes destroyed. So right now, if you double click on it, it goes into shape mode, and at this point you can actually you could select the nodes, which are like the points controlling the shape. You could drag it up, you could extend it, you could turn it to pretty much anything you want to do, and it stays, right? But it's no longer a text, it's just an object you can modify and manipulate. So I'll just press Ctrl Z, and then we'll go back to this. What I want to do right now is I want to create the horns. You can see the horns from page 2. I want to create this horn, right? So to create this horn, I'm not going to extend it per se. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create lines. So I'm going to use our polyline tool. If you have go to the freehand, click on the tiny arrow there. You could select the polyline tool there. The polyline tool enables you to create lines and freehand shapes. So you come down here. If this is not showing you node, you know that you've not actually checked all your snap options. So you could check snap to up. You could come to this standard bar here, click on the snap tool, and make sure everything is checked here. But the important thing right now is the objects and page, but probably the objects, right? But you can snap every other thing. Once you've done that, you come here. If you hover here, you see it will tell you that there is a point there called node. So if you click there, you can also click on this other node at the end here. You've created a line, and then make sure it doesn't extend. Press enter and it stops, right? So what I'll do is this line I created, I'll drag it out till it extends beyond. The reason why I created it from here and ended here is so that when I extend it, it's going to maintain that straight edge, stay on the edge. So I'm going to repeat the same thing here. I'm going to come here, click on the node, click on this other node, and press enter. And then I'm going to grab it and stretch it as well. Now I need to create another line that extends beyond this direction. Having created this line, select both lines and group it, Ctrl G. Then make a duplicate of it, Ctrl D, and then click on it and rotate it till it's straight. So hold shift while you're rotating it. It's going to rotate at angles. Maybe this looks perfect, so something like this. Then bring it into this place. Make sure it intersects with the shape. I think the height is too much, so just drag it down a little bit to somewhere here. This will be the maximum height, so that is high enough. Now we are trying to create the horn, so we've created a line that moves this way, we've created another one that moves this way. We need a third line that moves up again. So we're going to use the same lines here. These ones we've duplicated, and duplicate it again, and then bring it somewhere here, which is okay. Yeah, but this time around we have to ungroup it because we grouped it before by pressing Ctrl G. So ungroup it, you press Ctrl U or click on this, and we close up the gap between them by rotating this one. Let's shift this one inside. So here, yeah, something like this. So you can roughly see the shape here, here, and here. You can roughly see what we are trying to achieve. if you trace this line here, here, there's one tool we are going to use to generate all these areas that we've created. There's a particular tool we are going to use to generate it, and that tool is called the smart fill tool. So this is the smart fill tool. Directly here at the bottom side you see the interactive, the smart fill. If you select it, what the smart fill does is it helps you generate shapes from where shapes are overlapping and intersecting. So click on this. You come here, you set a color for it. I'm going to set a very bright color so we can see it. I'm going to set red, and so now I'll click here, it generates this area. I click here, it generates this area, it generates this tiny area, generates here, and generates this area, and then you can see the horn generated, right? So this shape that is generated, we are going to combine it together by selecting all of them. So select this first one, hold shift, select this one, select the third, the fourth, and the fifth, and then select, okay, just join them together first, and then hold shift and select your X, and then weld it all together, and you're going to have a perfect shape. So you see that. So now let's delete all these other things that we have, all these lines that we have here. Yeah, all of them deleted. So you can see the X now has the horn, but while it has the horn, it doesn't look very perfect yet, because our horn is kind of like curved. If we follow through on the original shape, we'll see that the horn has like a couple of curves on page 2. So it looks curved here and looks curved here, so it doesn't have straight lines like ours. So we are going to correct that. It means all these areas are going to convert all these corners to curved corners. So you double click on the line, right click here, and you convert it to curve. Double click here and right click here as well, convert it to curve. Then you double click on it to remove it. You double click on this one too to remove it. So while it's here, you can see that it's actually we actually have this shape, right? It looks really nice, like a horn. We go back to page 2, we see it's like that, it bends in and then bends out. So go here. So we need this place to curve out, and for us to achieve that, there's only one way to do that. You could select a shape and use something like your smooth tool. Make sure that the size is big enough. You could use something like 1 inch. This is you could use let's say 0.25 or 0.5. Let's say 0.25, and you could just click here and it bends it out, right? So that gives it a very curvy edge. You do that just a little and it gives it a curved edge. So you can see it might not be like the one on page 2 as exact as the one on page, because one on page 2 looks a little bit lower. The one on page 3 is actually a bit higher. Depends on how we created it, that's why. So we extended so much. You could remove this outline. If you want it to be lower, you could bring it down from here and use the arrows here to shrink or adjust it. You know, you could still do that. You could still do that. You could also delete this slide and then use this place to curve it out. Then it could look like the one we have on page 2 without much controls. So yeah, we have something like that, and that will be, this will serve as our horn for the disrupt. So now that we've gotten one side, you might be wondering if we'll have to repeat the same process. You see, this one is a bit lower than that one, but it doesn't matter, they're all looking really cool. So while we have this, you could be wondering if we'll have to, you could be thinking if we'll have to do the same process. We don't have to repeat the same process. Now you see, lucky for us, the X shape is actually symmetrical, which means it's kind of like it has the same sides on both sides, something like that. So we're going to divide it into 2 and use this path and then create another path. So to divide it, we need to create a line that passes through the center. So which tool are we going to use? We're going to use our polyline tool again, and then hit. Let's try it from the center here. Click here, hold shift and drag down. Click somewhere down and just press enter. Now this line, extend it so that it crosses. It doesn't matter, just extend it a little bit so it crosses the middle. It slices through the middle. And now you could give it a different outline so you see it. To change your outline color or your line color, just right click on any color here. So we could do that on magenta, and you could see that now. So we're going to use the same shape tool that we use, the smart fill. Click on it and generate this half part. So it generates just that part. And now we'll select the original shape and delete it. Select the line as well and delete it. Then select this shape and press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. And now we have pasted a different one there. You can see we've pasted the same object there. So we grab it from the side here and hold Ctrl and then move it the opposite direction and it will flip. So it flips and there you have it. So select both of them, and to select both of them, click on the first one, hold shift, click on the second one, and then we're going to use the weld and weld it together so it becomes one shape again. So you can see your disrupt with the horns, right? So this is disrupt and disturb cool. So you could give this this kind of color that I used for mine, or you could use orange. I think it's orange we used here. Yeah, orange. So you can see they have differences. The horns of this one are a bit lofted, but I feel like they are still nice as compared to this one that looks a little bit on the ground. This one feels a bit more like, I think this one feels a bit more like the ram, you know, like the cow or the ram compared to this one. So disrupt, yeah. So this is it. So you have this text. Make sure it's aligned to the center of this whole text. But before you do that, you can group this one as one. Select all of them and press Ctrl G. Then select this one here and shift select this and press C. And there your logo is done, right? So this is your disrupt and disturb cool logo. You could as well group everything so it stays together. Ctrl G, and there you have it. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this, man.